I said again, we're recording on the cloud and it's 5:08 p.m. We're going to get started.
I
So
think
first item.
I think I have to read a statement, don't I?
Oh, go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Okay. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18 of the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Hubbardston ARPA Advisory Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right or requirement to attend this meeting may be found on the website. No in-person attendance of the members of the body of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings via the town's website. A comprehensive record of the proceedings after the meeting will be posted there.
Thank you, David. So the first item I have on the agenda is approval of the minutes for January 5th. Did everyone have a chance to read those?
So moved. Well, I'm not on the committee. Sorry.
That's okay. KP, Susan, did you guys have a chance to read the minutes?
Where were they?
I believe I attached them in the agenda or in the email, and they also were, I think they're in the Google Drive, unless they're not in the Google Drive.
Oh, okay.
That's
Are
okay.
are they with the agenda? No, they're not. The agenda's by itself. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the email you sent with everything.
Okay, maybe they.
Yeah, they were not on the email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So where are they, in the Google Drive?
They should be. We'll put them off to the next meeting if everyone hasn't had a chance to review them, and I'll make sure I get them out to people tonight.
All right. Well, meanwhile, I'll try to find the Google Drive link and I'll look at them while we're talking.
All right.
So we don't hold it. I don't hold everybody up.
Okay. So next we have open session. We don't have anyone from the public here. Does anyone on the committee have anything in general to add before we get going with the regular agenda? Okay. All right, so the first thing we have is review of changes to ARPA. So first sub item of that is rules. All funds now can be used as lost revenues because it allows us up to $10 million with the final ruling to be put towards lost revenue. I actually had an opportunity to attend that training. I had sent it out to everyone. Tony had sent it over as a free CLE on ARPA today. It actually was rather interesting. It was about an hour long. They tried to keep it pretty strict to it. They did spend a lot of time going over it. I had specifically asked at one point where things can qualify under both, you know, revenue loss because it's general and miscellaneous or any other category. And they had recommended that when you have to categorize which category to put them under, they said it's a lot easier to put things under miscellaneous than it is to put them on the other ones. So my understanding from the conversation with them today, or not the conversation, but their training, was that when you go to fill out the final paperwork that David or whoever we have from the town or outside, what have you, we have fill out the paperwork that has to get submitted to the Treasury. You detail, you know, what each project is and the amounts and so forth, but you wouldn't have to break it down and say, okay, this would fall under broadband infrastructure or under economic impact. You could just say this falls under lost revenue, and then you still have to detail out and justify the project, but you wouldn't have to necessarily tie it to that specific category from the bat, if that makes sense. I'm getting deadpan stares, so I imagine it either makes sense or you guys are good with that.
Makes sense to me.
With that. Yeah.
The other couple pieces that came out of it that I think were really helpful, I did add to the Google Drive this afternoon, probably about 2 after the meeting or after the Zoom call, a couple documents that they had recommended. So we keep referring to the interim rule where they finally passed the final rule in January. So I did include the document for that. I did not print it out. It's 440 something pages. I did print out the summary of the final rule, which is only 44 pages. From the interim rule to the final rule, the theme of the day today was that some things did get changed and they did add them. Like they added things such as road building maintenance and repair as more, just more categories that you could, subcategories that you could use a project under. They also spoke about small businesses. So I know a couple meetings ago, we talked about small businesses. Under negative economic impacts, they defined a small business as under 500 employees, had to be independently owned and operated, and it could not be an industry or a small business that was dominant in their field of operation.
What does that mean?
I would think that the only business in town that would fall into that even closely would be the egg place, Country Hen. Because I don't know, if anyone was going to be dominant in their field of operation, I would say they would qualify. It's not going to be the Hubbardston Town Diner
That's right.
or the gas station.
That's right.
So I would say mostly because it's a big operation and I think they distribute their eggs throughout, at least the state, if not further region. Were you going to add something to that, Susan?
No, I agree, and I'd be surprised if the Country Hen put forth anything, put forth an application, but I've been wrong before.
The other thing they mentioned in the thing today was they said that you'd have to go through more hoops if you were going to give a business loan. Their strong recommendation was if you were going to give money to a business that you did it as a grant program.
Yep.
They also talked about premium pay. So premium pay is spelled out more in the final rules. And I don't think this is something we necessarily have to outline in our application or the RFP. I think we can just link to it. And, you know, if someone's applying for this, they can go read up on it. But they give the definition again of essential employees, which is, you know, pretty broad. The next thing they go over is that it cannot be for telework. So if you're looking for premium pay for an employee and they were working remotely, that won't do it. They actually had to be interacting with the public.
Okay.
And the third thing, and this one we'd have to look up because I didn't clearly understand this piece. If you were going to do pay, it had to be for people that were under 150% of the state average of annual pay. An employee has to be non-exempt, so they have to be eligible for overtime. So like a department head who is salaried would not qualify.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also supposed to do, you know, if there's anything outside of that, you have to do written justification why it qualifies.
Okay.
They also covered capital. They didn't have capital apparently in the first set, but they put capital in this set under revenue loss. I don't know. Oh, and one of the things I noted, I actually put an asterisk next to this. They did spend a few minutes talking about how affordable housing would qualify.
Yeah, I saw that in the final rule. That caught my eye.
So, and I know Alice from Planning Board, who's also on the Affordable Housing Committee, I know that's something that she's always interested in. So I'm sure she'll be checking
Mhm.
that out. The other note I have here, and they didn't spend too much time on this, and I'd be interested to go back into the final rule and see what the definition is further. But they do talk about regionally responsible. I think that's the word. Oh, that's what I wrote down. But they were essentially talking about that the actual cost of the project should be aligned to the number of people that it affects, right? So you can't spend on one business $1 million and spend, you know, 10,000 on everything else. Like
Yeah.
it's gotta impact proportionally. Oh, that's probably what the word was. proportionally responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They talked about OPEB a little bit because it says you can't contribute to retirement, but there's nothing specific that talks about OPEB one way or the other. But they said it's a very gray area and they moved on.
Okay.
They talked about if we're already budgeted for something, we already have the funds allocated, that's a really gray area to then say, instead of paying for it out of the budgeted allotment, that we would pay out of ARPA. Overall decision-making amounts eligible for has to be fair. So that goes back to, I think, some of our earlier conversations. The committee was discussing the potential of having caps or amounts, you know, whether it was an amount of money we put aside to spend on certain purposes or whether it was simply just a cap. So if you're in a business, how much can I apply for max? They talked about. And then they also talked about how under the administrative costs, you can have an ARPA grants coordinator, which David might be interested in because David only has so many hours in a day. So that's what I took from notes from that. I did upload the slideshow as well onto the Google Drive from today. So everyone should have access to that. You also have access to two other documents that they shared. One was the final rule reporting and compliance and final rule reporting guidance. So those are all uploaded. Does anyone else have any comments or thoughts on, or anything to say about change of the rules since last we met? Because I feel like it's an ever revolving.
No, I don't have any questions. That's a great breakdown. Thank you for taking that on and giving us the highlights about it so we don't all have to read 727 pages.
It's only 440, KP.
Oh, sorry. I read slow.
This feels like 700 pages.
Oh, God. Well, even the 40 pages feels forever. So, all right. David, do you have anything else on the rules for that?
No, I don't, not at this time.
Okay, excellent. All right, so then the next thing we have is review and approval of the documents. So last we met, we talked about the RFP. We made some changes to it. We got to the select board. Chris and I, or KP and I talked to the select board about it the other week to see how they felt about it. They seemed to be relatively in support of it and in support of the matrix. They didn't have anything else to add. And I think they were happy with the direction the process was going. Susan did send some edits today beyond what I had typed up. When I had done the type up, anything highlighted in green was something I had changed since the last time we met. I did include just throwing in a submission deadline just to give us something to work with. But I figure we'll go through these and see if there's any other comments. Just some typo things in that first paragraph. Susan suggested adding boards, second line, and towns, boards, committees, and departments. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna share the document on my screen so you all know what I'm talking about. Oh, and of course I didn't download that one. All right. Where is it? Hold on. Let me get it up. I had the original one, but I don't think I had Susan's on my screen here. Please hold. Okay, there we go. We should be good. Here and share. All right, can everyone see the document?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So first we have the first paragraph. Susan suggested adding town boards, committees, and, so it's not just departments, to clarify that, and she did a punctuation change. Okay.
Thank you.
Was that gonna bother you, KP, the punctuation?
What's that?
The punctuation change? Or you're just saying thank you because you can see it?
I couldn't see it.
Okay. All right, proposal details. So I don't know if you can see, if anyone has any trouble, it's green and red there, but the third line down, the first request for proposals, language change. Next line, funds remaining after this first round. Town anticipates that there'll be a subsequent request for proposals to be announced later date. A change from the word contract to binding agreement with the town in order to receive the funds. Everyone okay with those changes? Anyone want to discuss them?
It makes sense to me.
KP, Chris, you both good with that?
I guess I don't understand why are we doing rounds? Why don't people just send in proposals and
Until the money's out?
yeah, and we'll handle them as they come in.
We could do that.
We want a deadline. We don't want this dragging on forever. We need a stop date.
Well, we can send a deadline, you know, and tell them when that is, but you know, I don't want to preclude someone who submits something in the second round just to find out that the money's all gone from the first round. You know, how do we know?
Well, there wouldn't be a second round if the money's all gone.
Yeah, but they don't know that. The people don't know that.
Well, we would announce if there's going to be a second round. I think they do know that. If they don't hear from us, or we can then announce that the money's all gone.
Aren't we going to end up with 2 rounds because of the way the funding's being distributed anyways?
We don't know how. I don't think we know, first of all, David, we haven't heard anything else. You know, it's the next item on the agenda, but you haven't heard anything else about that additional funds coming from the state, right?
Not anything that's useful at this point. I've been asking around with the MMA and with Senator Goby, but I don't have that information right now.
But this also contemplates additional funds as opposed to remaining funds. So I think we're covered either way.
Didn't we talk about the remaining money being here by May?
Well, that's the remaining of the 1.4, Chris, or KP. We don't know what's going to happen with the additional funds from the state on this additional money they're sending down. We don't know how much it is, how they're going to send it to us, or when we're going to get it.
Right. So we can only deal with what we know, which is the 1.4.
Yep.
So I mean, I think we should just get these applications in. Just let them flow in.
So what about compromising? What about saying, you know, first priority given to applications received by this date, but application process is rolling while funds last?
That's fine. I'm fine with that, but I don't want to, you know, I don't want to set the expectation that people can just wait for the second round and have their request possibly funded, because there's many reasons why that's not true, right? We may not have funds, they may not qualify, whatever the case may be. I mean, I think people should get them in sooner than later. I know certainly if I was applying for funding, I would get it in sooner than later, but I don't know that all the people out there know that.
Susan, how do you feel about that?
I'm indifferent.
Okay. So I'll just change this. We'll play with the date later, but priority given to applications received. David, do you have any thoughts or any administrative issues with doing it that way?
When I saw the deadline of February 23rd, I wondered why that deadline was chosen. I don't have a problem with it, but I just wanted to know what was the thinking.
Oh, I was thinking that it's the, like, I think it's a Thursday. So you guys are in on the Thursday? And
It's
then
a
I was, oh, even better, Wednesday. So you guys are in on Wednesday, be able to make copies on Thursday, be able to distribute them to the committee for the weekend. We'd be able to meet on them the following week.
Yeah, so we're giving them 4 weeks, in other words.
Yeah, but we can come back to that, David. I guess my more specific question is, how do you feel about priority given to applications received by that day and doing rolling?
I think we need to spell out that last part, applications received after this date.
How are we going to decide who gets what on a rolling open time frame? What if something shows up later that is more worthy than something that we've already awarded funds to?
Well,
What is our timeline for making decisions? If I was the applicant, that's the first thing. The second thing I'd want to know after, when do I have to get my application in?
I have a similar question because if we're using a matrix or if we're looking at these competitively with each other, the way one application competes with another depends upon what applications you're looking at.
Right.
So there's a certain amount of just kind of intuitive fairness about doing them in one batch, because that makes it so somebody can't come back and say we're cherry picking. But if we have a way around that, that's more of a concern than really a definitive we can't do it that way. It's just we have to address it if we do it that way, because the appearance of fairness and actual fairness are both super important.
The other problem is then what if we run out of money, but we still have applicants coming in?
Well, they're going to be out of luck.
Well, they are, except nobody knows that.
So what if we decided now, we're gonna do the first, we'll pick whatever the due date is for the first round. What if we spell out, KP, to clarify, and Susan, spell out that the first round will consider all applications in by this date at our next meeting in March, and then any applications that come in from that point on, we'll consider, let's say May 1st.
How about if funds are available somewhere
Right.
in that second part?
But
Yeah.
we already have, so you mean just clarify and just stick a date with the sentence, if funds are available, that we already have?
Yeah, I think we just need to be super clear about it. Even though it appears other places in the document, I think it needs to be clear that funds availability determines whether applications are going to be heard.
KP, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have any funds, there's no sense in seeing applications.
So do we want to just say this is the first, do we want to keep on this green paragraph here in this first thing? This is the first request for proposals. A second request for proposals will be considered if funds are
May.
available, or
May be considered.
Leave what we've got here and just say, if there are additional remaining funds, the town may consider a subsequent request.
first request for proposals, applications received after the due date. If applications are received after the due date, the town may consider subsequent requests if there are additional remaining funds. No, that's still choppy, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, I'll highlight this. KP, do you have any, I know you feel strongly on this. Do you have any suggestions or things to try to get in the wording there to make it clear?
The town will consider.
We'll consider subsequent requests if there are additional funding available.
Yeah.
Do we want to say future requests or requests received after the due date?
How long are we going to allow applications after the due date to wander in?
Well, I would just say that, after the due date, we timestamp them, take those into consideration, don't look at anything after that. And then if anything else comes in, we look at it at a further date. That's why I'm almost saying,
So we're going to have an initial submission deadline and then a final deadline? Is that what you're suggesting?
no, I think I'm still suggesting that we do 2 rounds, but perhaps we spell out when the second round is. So maybe we can say there'll be a second, if there are remaining funds, a second round of requests will be due. When's the second half of the 1.4 supposed to come in, David? May?
May or June.
So let's say July 1.
Okay.
I'm a little, and maybe it's not really a concern we need to worry about, but I'm a little concerned about committing to what we're going to do on the second round if what we did on this doesn't work out, like whether we want to bind our future selves in that way.
What if we say a second round is preliminarily scheduled with a due date of July 1st, pending available funds and I don't know, at the discretion of the town, I don't know.
David's got his hand up.
So
David.
with most RFPs, we always throw in language, maybe it's here and I didn't see it,
It's not.
language saying that the town reserves the right to reject any or all or parts of any submission if it's in the best interest of the town to do so.
That's good.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So with that, do we want to stick in that second piece for July? Does everyone feel comfortable with that, with including the town reserves the right to reject any and all submissions if it's in the best interest of the town to do so? Chris?
Yeah.
Susan, you okay with that?
If we must. And I
Okay.
guess we must.
All right, I'm just gonna make a comment here and I'll go in and add it afterwards.
All right.
I'm just gonna add, and we'll say July 1st due date.
Just a point of order, July 1st is a Friday.
Okay. I will keep that in mind, David, when I look at it. I'll just make sure it's sometime post then.
Okay.
But that way, hopefully we'll have more funds in the bank. All right, so is everyone else okay with the rest of that paragraph?
Yep.
Taking out that yellow highlight section, modifying it?
Yep.
KP, you okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, what ARPA funds may be used for and who's eligible to apply? So it's no longer interim, now it's final, right?
Correct.
Let's see. So just some clarification. The language there provides a list of uses to which a recipient of ARPA funding may put those funds. Examples includes but not limited to payroll and covered benefit expenses for health and safety staff, assistance to unemployed workers, assistance to small businesses, nonprofits, households, and impacted industries, survivor benefits. Please consult.
The final rule. There you go.
And then I gotta actually, oh, you already have the final rule. Oh no, that's the interim final rule. We need to,
Yeah, I've given you a link in my edit.
this is your edit, Susan.
Perhaps there was a comment that didn't get translated onto this.
Okay,
Anyway, I can give you the link if it's not there.
that's okay. I think I can quickly find it.
Okay. It says
Okay.
ECFR is the website.
Okay. I'll write that down. Okay, is everyone good with that paragraph?
Yes.
All right, in order to apply to Hubbardston for ARPA funds, the applicant must be a town resident, employer with a place of business, nonprofit located within the town, or a town board committee department.
Now, that's a question I asked last time. Is that a fact, or is that how we're presenting the application?
I threw that in as a local rule because I wasn't able to find it anywhere. Susan, you didn't come across that in the rules for interim.
I think we lifted that from Fitchburg, and I think this is a good rule, and this is what it should be.
David, do you have any concern with that? Are you okay?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, cool. All right. Chris?
Nonprofit located within the town might be a challenge. Because it might be a nonprofit that is doing work or transacting business in the town with some other kind of nexus. Because how many nonprofits actually have a mailing address in Hubbardston, even if they're doing work in Hubbardston?
Probably zero, but they can apply to the town they're located in.
Well, I think I know where Chris's question's going. I think he's saying, Susan, not so much the nonprofit being like, I have a loss of revenue, or, I need to apply for payroll for my essential employees. I think he's saying more so, let's say there's a nonprofit that wants to come in and do a project in town.
So Habitat for Humanity, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
What you're thinking about. We want to spend our money do we want to give them ARPA funds? I'm thinking no.
Well, I think it depends. Like, for instance, the Habitat for Humanity piece, one could argue that it's going to be the direct effect of affordable housing.
Well,
So
I'd also like to throw out at this point where we're not weighing individual candidates, where we're weighing criteria. And that, yeah, Habitat is a potential example of it, but there could be other examples like East Quabbin Land Trust or somebody like that.
Or the Hubbardston Lions Club.
Well, are they not based here?
They're a chapter of an international organization, but they are based in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet you they don't have their own EIN number. They're probably under the master organization.
Well, then what? Okay, then if we want to open that up, then wouldn't we also be considering employers outside of Hubbardston as well, that employ people within Hubbardston?
If they had a nexus. And maybe that is the way to look at it. Business or nonprofit. And I don't know if that's too technical of a term where lay people looking at it aren't going to understand what we mean by it, but
it is, and it's also going to be subjective. We're going to have to, if you're going to use that term, we're going to have to define what it is and what it is not. That's why I like this bright line.
What about throwing in the language of alternatively, an applicant would be eligible if they're proposing a project that would directly impact and affect the town of Hubbardston?
I like that. That makes sense.
Susan, how do you feel about that?
Pretty broad.
Do you have language in it that you think we could tighten it up?
No. No, I'm in love with what we have currently.
All right, let me just put it down here so I don't forget it, and then we can discuss further. Hold on.
All
Chris,
right.
if you want to talk, give me a second. Applicants.
They're gonna benefit the town or okay, there it is, or its residents.
All right, now,
I would just say directly benefit. I don't know that impact adds anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the concept of it. I don't
Eh,
know that we get there with the wording, but I really like the concept of it. And
Right.
directly benefiting.
I would say an out of town applicant or out of town employer. Something like that to reference back to what we're talking about there.
Use the word foreign.
Well,
oh, I don't think so, David. I ain't ducking those.
outsider.
All right, David, do you have any thoughts on that sentence? Are you okay with that?
I'm good.
Okay. KP? Yeah? Okay.
Trying to read it.
Oh, you didn't read it? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. All right, I just unhighlighted those so I know that they're good to go. How to apply. To apply, please complete the ARPA application, submit any all required documents as detailed below before the submission deadline in hard copy form to the Hubbardston Town Administrator's Office, attention ARPA Advisory Committee, 7 Main Street, Hubbardston, blah, blah, blah. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Let's see, required attachments. Applications must include the following details supporting documentation. Business nonprofits, we just, Susan changed it from agency to applicant. Let's see, authorized official certification. Submit a recently signed letter by the board of directors which identifies the rep was authorized. That's pretty standard. Let's see. Nothing else major there, just a couple word changes. Everyone okay with section 1 and 2 and 3 on that?
Yep.
Okay. David, you're okay with those?
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I was thinking about was the bottom of that paragraph on the bottom page. The representative should not sign it for himself or herself. That I guess I'm a little concerned that if you have a very small business that we may be crowding them out.
No, listen, well, all this means is that if it is that the representative isn't the applicant, the organization is.
Okay, that's fine.
That's all that's intended to say. I was gonna cross it out and then decided to leave it alone.
Okay.
Should we clarify that, or do you think people will understand? Should sign as the representative and not as an individual. Does that work, Susan?
Sure, yep, that's good.
Okay. All right. David, you're good with the rest of that section there?
I am.
Okay. All right, all applicants' job descriptions, if they're asking for pay money, detailed project budget, detailed project schedule for all construction projects, detailed project schedules is required. Does that
My
work?
comment there though is I think whether it's a construction project or whatever kind of project it is, I think we should ask for a schedule. So my suggestion was to delete it. Yeah, do that.
KP, you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I think that's where the final rule is that you stuck in there, Susan.
No, that's a different, that's a different.
Oh, it is the interim. You're right.
Yeah, that's a different link. The ECFR site. I think it's ecfr.gov. It's the electronic code of federal regulations and they'll have it in there.
Okay.
And I can send it to you if you can't find it.
All right, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds overview. So that's just all there. We need to go back. David, I will check this out again before I send it to you. Just keep in mind that, oh, see, here it is again.
Yeah.
I may not have caught all the interims. Okay, so there's no changes there. Let's see. All right, alignment, projects clearly aligned to the goals of the select board and town administrator. So I stuck, this is something we had talked about before, so it's one of the categories in which we have in our matrix for something being, you know, clearly aligned to our goals. If you remember Fitchburg, they had any of their projects, right? It could be their master plan, their open space plan. We don't have a lot of our plans currently up to date. We have some, I think like open space is currently up to date for a couple more years, right, David?
Right.
But the other ones may not be. Susan had actually suggested consolidating. I did send, I believe I sent it to everyone, and it was in the Google Docs as well. I believe I sent an excerpt from the minutes from November for the select board talking about the FY23 goals, outlining those. I also sent Ryan's email, capital debt, ARPA, and long-term planning, where he outlined some more of those pieces. Susan, like I said, had suggested that we consolidate those into one document.
Yeah, my reaction to that, and this is, you know, somebody who sits on the committees, is that if we give all of that to the applicant, it's not manageable.
Okay.
I think we should be, I mean, especially if we're expecting them to clearly align their project, I think that would be a daunting task based on what we have now. And if that requires the select board to vote on a list of goals, that could be good.
Well, I think we already have the November minutes. We did vote on those in November as to the goals for FY23. So that is the select board's budgetary goals looking forward to next year that we did vote on.
Right, but how would you align a project to a level funded budget? What does that mean?
Well, you wouldn't, but you could, you know, as a department head, or, you know, as David goes, he could say, okay, well, we want to do a study for, I don't know, the infrastructure, so for the Slade building, or, you know, we want to do a road project that aligns to it. I don't know. I'm trying to remember back to the application as it's drafted. I don't know if there's a specific spot that says, do you align with the goals? But even if, you know, it's very possible someone doesn't necessarily know that it aligns, and it does. Like, there could be a project proposed that aligns perfectly with open space, right? And I think that's something that we're going to have to be more mindful of and lean on David and or Ryan for, to kind of guide us through, you know, when someone submits a project, does this line up already with one of our other goals somewhere that we may not have on the top of our head? But I think if a project, not everything's going to meet all of these pieces, right? There could be a project that comes in and, you know, they have nothing for leveraging. They have no money to put up next to it. There could be a project that comes in and it really doesn't tackle at all the long-term impact, right? It's a very short-term project. Or there could be, you know, I think it's just gonna depend on the project. I don't think everything's gonna hit, the top score in each one of these marks.
It won't, except I, as the applicant, can figure out if it's going to directly benefit a majority of Hubbardston residents or businesses. I can figure out what the term of the impact is. I can identify a population of disproportionate impact. I have no idea if I'm shooting in the dark as to whether or not my project is aligned. That's my comment to that particular one. And so I would want at least to have a fighting chance at framing my project to see if I could land it within one of the goals. It might be, you're right, it might be that it's not. It's unrelated to any of the, the road projects or the building needs or anything else. I mean, for example, if we're talking about our businesses, there probably isn't any alignment at all, but at least they would know that at the time of submission, so it would not be a surprise one way or the other that they were scored accordingly.
David, do you have any thoughts on being able to do a consolidated list? Is that something you and Tony could put together as an attachment of what we know?
Consolidated list of priorities?
Yeah, so kind of combining what Ryan had submitted along with any of the select board's FY23 budget goals that are relevant to, the larger scheme of things that anyone would even submit something for, and maybe even just mentioning, any active plans that are in effect. So like,
Okay.
maybe
All right,
we don't see the details, but if I'm on Conservation Commission or nonprofit or whatever, and I have a project for recreation, I can always pull up the open space plan and see if there's something I'm going to propose that's going to be in alignment.
Okay. All right, I'll work on something.
Okay. Okay. Does that make sense, KP? Are you on board with that?
Yeah, it does, but my concern is, when are we going to get this thing out there? Because every time we talk about this, we seem to get down in the weeds and we're letting best get in the way of better. I mean, can we put something out there that covers 80% of what we want to do and get this process rolling?
I'm trying to make our job as the deciders easy.
I hear you, and I appreciate that you want to make it easy, but I don't know. I feel like the clock is ticking, and
Well, is everyone okay with David putting together the list of projects and being able to simply attach it to this document without having it come back through us to approve it?
Yes.
Are you okay with that, KP?
yeah, I'm fine with that.
That way, once we approve this, hopefully tonight, he'll be able to simply attach it as soon as it's done and send it out. Chris?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Nothing, no changes there. I just added the words a 5-member ARPA committee so they knew what they were dealing with. I don't think there's any changes here in the matrix. Okay.
Right.
Does anyone else have any thoughts or comments on this document beyond what we talked about?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept this document as revised and attach David's goals that are consolidated?
So moved.
Second it.
Okay. Roll call vote. All in favor, KP?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Heather, yes. Okay, so David, you have an RFP. I will update this with the comments first thing tomorrow and get it over to you so you have it for Monday.
Okay. Can you send it to my private email as well?
I can send it wherever you want, David.
Carol and David1 at verizon.net.
I believe I have that.
Okay, good.
All right, so then the next document, and Susan, I think you made some comments, so let me just pull up the other document. Okay, so then the next document is application.
Yeah, I just tried to format it a little
Okay.
bit to make it a little more readable. There's nothing really outstanding,
Okay, so
I don't think. if I
KP, did you have a chance to look at this document?
Yeah,
Okay, David, did you have a chance to look at it?
I did.
Okay, do you guys have any thoughts or anything you want to go over? Add, subtract? So this is the first page, just going over the application information. The second page has
So
the, oh, good, David.
going back to the first page,
Yes.
on the bottom where you fill in the 1 through 4, I was thinking lost revenue. Do we try to match it as closely as possible?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Are we gonna call it lost revenue or do you want to call it something else? Do you want to call it lost revenue parentheses all other projects? So that someone doesn't propose a project and be like, it's not on here?
Yeah,
I would do 6, then do line item 6 for all other projects.
David, you okay with that?
yeah, just lost revenue, not lost revenue,
Right,
number 5.
lost.
Oh.
OSP.
Well, at least I didn't write loose. Do that sometimes. Okay. Anything else on that
Good.
first page?
No,
Nope.
Okay. That's the cat, in case anyone wants to know who Penny is. All right, let's see, next one, project request, project information. Any thoughts on this? Anything anyone wants to change, add? David, were you okay with these?
I am.
Okay. I took a lot of Fitchburg and then I meshed what David had with Fitchburg a little bit. KP, you okay with this page?
yeah.
Susan?
yep.
All right, finance information. Anyone have anything on this page?
Do we need to add the in 3, our list of categories that needs to match our 1 through 6, doesn't it?
Probably should.
Yeah, let's break up E. And I never liked MISC. MISC is scary.
All right, and then we're just gonna call, I'll have to reformat, but I can do
Yeah,
that.
we'll do E and F. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Susan, you also had highlighted here preliminary cost estimate, best guess.
Best guess, really? Help. No,
So, well, I
no,
think
no
David,
guessing, no guessing.
I think David had taken this from capital requests, if I remember correct. So sometimes that happens, but
Oh, let's get guessing. Let's take guessing out of this. Just say preliminary cost estimate.
okay. Is everyone okay with removing best guess?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. David, you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So they got to base it on something.
Well, we'll drill that out in the deciding.
Okay, so then list of all expenses and amounts for each. And list out project milestones. Is everyone okay with those?
Yep.
Okay. And then certifications. Certification signature page.
It's not really a bid, is it? It's just a proposal.
It is just a proposal. I stole this language from,
Yeah, no, I'm just eyeballing it here now.
I can get rid of it and just write proposal. So
Yeah,
that-
let's do that. That looks good.
So there was a section in here about child
Good.
support, but I took it out.
I
Right,
think we
Dave?
want it, I think we want it in if we're going to take applications from individuals
Do
or
we want it in?
unincorporated entities.
I'm okay with putting it in. I just thought it was really bizarre, but I guess that makes sense.
No, you don't want to give anybody money who owes child support. And we've got bidder in that second paragraph, so we should just say the applicant.
Yeah, actually, I think the child support is required by law.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, lift the language that you pulled out, whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll go back and look at it.
yeah.
Okay, everyone's good with the other sections on this?
No, yeah, that's okay. Okay. Yep, I think that looks good.
Okay. KP, you're good with it?
Yes,
David?
Yep,
Okay. All right, so we have all of the links for those.
Do we have is there, okay, and there's a signature block below? There's a name of the app. There it is. Okay, great. Perfect. Thanks.
It took me a while to add it, but yes.
Yep, good.
All right, so if everyone is,
is this form going to be used for public applications?
this would be everybody, KP. So this would be, if you're a department head, this would be if you're a board, if you're the Hubtown Diner, if you're Bob's Home Business.
Habitat for Humanity.
So who's gonna fill out the application for the Lombard Road project?
So
Okay.
it would be, that would be done by Travis and David.
and Ryan,
and
Yeah,
Ron. Yes,
yeah.
Okay,
okay. So we'll have to go back to the RFP for the due date, but in the meantime, if everyone's good with this, can I get a motion to approve this with the changes?
So moved.
second,
Okay, all those in favor by roll calls, KP,
yes,
Susan,
Yes,
Chris? Chris?
Yes,
Heather, yes. All right, so that
Mike
passed.
Foley has joined us.
Oh, Mike, hold on, let me go find him. Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How long have you been hanging out in the waiting room?
About 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay,
I had this in my calendar at 6 PM rather than 5. Sorry.
that's okay. At least we didn't lose you. I thought you got stuck in the market basket line.
For bread and milk, yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. We just went through the RFP, the application. We made a couple of small modifications and changes, but they're substantially similar to what they were when they were sent out. Did you have any thoughts that you want to include in any of these? Or you good?
No, I'm good.
Excellent. All right, so we're also with both of those. Going back to the RFP, the next thing we have to determine is just when our due date is going to be. I preliminarily, David had asked earlier where I came up with February 23rd. I had looked at, what gives people a number of weeks to get the information out there and get a chance to fill out the application. Doing the 23rd of February, David said it's a Wednesday, so they would be able to have it in the office and hopefully have copies made for all of us to pick up on Thursday, the 24th, and then we'd be able to have a meeting late the following week to start going over these applications and reviewing them. So that by the first week of March, we'd be moving on this. How do folks feel about that date? Do they like the date, not like the date, want to move it up sooner, push it back?
How long did Fitchburg give its applicants to respond?
I don't know, Susan. I'd have to go look it up. I don't have that
Okay.
in front of me. I can find out.
My feeling is that that's pretty tight.
Okay, that's fair.
Would March 1st work?
So Fitchburg, the problem with Fitchburg, I don't know when they released their RFP, but they gave till November 1st.
November 1st of 2021.
Yeah, so I'll have to go look and see when they actually released the RFP.
Mm-hmm.
Mike suggested March 1st. So you figure David's got to do the goals pieces to add to it, and then we have to get it posted on the website, pushed out on Facebook, do a reverse 911 call, and hopefully do a quick newspaper article if they'll pick it up. That's what we had talked about. Let's see. I'm on Fitchburg's page now, but I'm not sure it's going to tell me the date they.
I don't think it is.
No, it doesn't say when the document was created.
Yeah, okay.
So. How does everyone feel about a March 1st deadline? Do we feel like that's still too tight, or you feel like that's better?
I mean, that gives everybody a month.
KP?
I'm okay with that deadline, but I want to talk a little bit about the Lombard Road project. And maybe I'm all wet, maybe I'm not, but I'm pretty confident that's a project that's going to get funded by ARPA and get pushed through. Okay, every town in this Commonwealth is getting money, and they're all going to be looking to do road work. So I think we want to get that project at least in front of the ARPA board and the select board sooner than later, so we can get a deal with this contractor sooner than later before he's booked or can't get raw materials or can't find manpower to do this project or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that's way down the road and we got to go through over a lot of hurdles to get there, but I think we might get over those hurdles. If someone tells me I'm all wet and that project doesn't have a chance to get funded, then tell me that. But if that's not the case, I think we got to jump on that one at least. I mean, it was suggested by town administration. You know, it was at the last meeting, it was supported. I think it's a project that's a forlorn conclusion. And I just don't want to be caught trying to get it done in June when all the contractors are booked and there's no asphalt out there to be had because 363 other towns are trying to do the same thing.
Are you concerned that Travis will wait until March 1st to submit a proposal?
I'm concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about, I think we're doing ourselves, you know, we got to help ourselves. And I think that's one thing we got to get moving sooner than later. If, you know, if that's something, I mean, that's something I am definitely going to support 100%. If other people on this board don't like it, and if the select board don't like it, then it's dead in the water. But I think that's one of the projects that's going to get pushed through. You know, it's going to be a little less than half the nut of money we already have. And for the reasons I just said, I think we would want to get that thing rolling sooner than later. I was told it could be done this year, But the longer we push out these deadlines and extend things and wait, it's harder, it's gonna be harder and harder to get that goal achieved.
So I guess my concern is just, we need to figure out what we're doing as far as projects and when they're due. If we were gonna do something like look at the Lombard project sooner, I don't think we can do that in a vacuum. I think we would have to say, we'll look at all town projects, you know, at a sooner date and give them first priority. And then look at outside projects at a later date. Because I mean, we run into a couple issues, right? Number one, keep in mind that, you know, Travis can come up with whatever number he thinks it's going to be, but it's not going to be the right number. It's
Right.
it's not going to be 100% accurate, right? You got to go out to bid.
Right?
By the time you're done doing the bid, you know, to your point, KP, prices for this or that go up and contractors and so forth. But I mean, the other problem we run into is this: we only have half of that 1.4 currently in the bank. And we can't spend more than what we have. So even if the other part of the project, you know, let's say the rest of the money doesn't come in until July 1st, we may not be able to complete a road project that's over that amount of money before July 1st because we don't have the money to appropriate.
Right, but we
So-
talked about that last select board meeting, and we talked about floating bonds and short-term debt and whatnot to handle that. That's why I raised that question.
But it gets more dicey. I think David will probably jump in on this one. It gets more dicey when you cross fiscal years for a project. Like, it makes closing the books harder. I think it'll make ARPA a lot harder to deal with. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's a project that, you know, will probably rank very highly. It's just going to come down to what's the actual amount of the ask and how do we do it?
Ultimately, aren't we, we're just an advisory board to the select board. So I guess in that context, if the select board wanted to take that project and go forward with it, we're just the advisory board. But I would be a little reticent to do it as part of the advisory board, just because if we're trying to start a process, we don't want to build a bunch of exceptions into it to start with off the bat. But the select board, I think, would be perfectly within its right to just do it.
David?
I think some of the issues would be addressed by the application, wouldn't it? The timing, the bid process, the design, mobilization. I think a lot of that would be answered by the application itself.
Okay, and how do you feel about looking, you know, getting that in, looking at that project before the due date? Do you think we need to change our due date? Do you think, to Chris's point, we send it directly to the select board and bypass our committee? What is your thoughts? How do we do something so that the process still remains equitable, not only
Yeah, I
amongst
think
town
that,
people, but other departments?
I think fast tracking one project over others is not a good idea. I imagined when we were setting this up that we would have applications that showed up on a date certain, by a date certain, after which we would then look at all of them, score them, and make our decisions accordingly.
I think Chapter 90 money doesn't get released until April, I think. So I think if we had a March 1st deadline for this project, we could observe that. Would be within the time frame that most other road projects would be implemented.
You okay with that, KP?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean,
So we'll stick to the March 1st deadline. David will make sure that Travis knows that there's a March 1st deadline to get Lombard Road in as a project, along with Ryan.
And there's nothing preventing us from going out doing the procurement right now, just subject to the availability of funds.
Great idea, David. Let's do that.
All right.
Then you'd have a real number.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. All right, Mike, Susan, Chris, you guys all good with that?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so that covers that piece. I don't think we need to spend any time going over the goals or the capital plan, any of those documents. As we mentioned earlier, Mike, David's actually gonna consolidate all of that onto one sheet. So
Okay.
that's easier for applicants to figure out if they are, in the alignment section. Next item I have here, documents to finalize and release. We already did. We approved the RFP with the changes and the application for funds. I think we're good with review criteria. The document due date we said is March 1st. And at our very first meeting, we talked about posting it on Facebook, doing a reverse 911 call on Code Red, just to let people know it's out there, making sure it's on our website, and seeing if we can do a newspaper article, and making sure all the applicants who already applied get a copy of the application. They miss anything? Okay.
So
David?
realistically, when do we think we'll have this on the town website for the public to start looking at and gathering their documentation?
David? That
Yeah,
comes
the
down-
document's ready. I can do it on Monday.
It'll be posted on the town website
Yep.
for the public to start reviewing?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. All right, so then next steps, I think we need to figure out, maybe we want to have one meeting, just a brief meeting before the applications come in to make sure that we're on the same page. And I know we have our review criteria, but we're probably going to want to draft a scoring sheet that we can each utilize ahead of time so that we can bring it with us to that the meeting with the applications. Does that sound doable to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll try to set that up in a couple weeks, and then we're gonna want to set the meeting post March 1st. So I'll send out some dates for people, and as long as things with COVID stay calm, everyone good with doing that meeting in person?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
KP, does that work? Okay, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Is there anything else?
No.
Okay. Last motion, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, made by Susan, seconded by KP. You got it in first. All those in favor, roll call vote. Let's see, KP,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Mike,
Aye.
Chris,
Yes.
Heather, yes. All right, we are adjourned. It is currently, I don't know, 6:21 PM.